series on people's pandemic experiences. So in this series, I talk to ordinary people and find out what they've been through over the last 2 years. In this interview, I speak with Vanessa. She's the mother of a 4-year-old boy, and she lives with MS and lupus. And so we basically talk about some of the experiences she's been through, some of her worries and fears, and also some of the good points about living in the pandemic. Because, in these interviews, we do try to cover the joyful aspects as well as some of the sadness and grief. Anyway, I think you'll all get something out of this video, so please watch it all the way through and listen to Vanessa tell a story.
Okay, so do you have any social media accounts or businesses that you want to plug before we get started?
Well, I'm on TikTok under R_U, like the letter U underscore dreaming, and that's pretty much it.
Cool.
I mean, I have Facebook and Instagram, but people don't follow me there.
I find it really hard to get people to follow you on Instagram. I find that quite tricky.
Yeah, unless you've got some like big niche, which I do not. Yeah, people don't follow you.
Yeah, it's so weird, isn't it? You get like 200 to 400 views per video on TikTok, and then you upload something, you're like, oh, that's done well, upload it to Instagram, you get 2 views.
Yeah.
Cool. So quite a heavy question to start, but it is quite a good icebreaker. What do you think is most different in your life now than it was in January 2020 because of the pandemic?
To be honest, nothing. Like my life did not really change at all. I suppose the only thing for me that changed is that not that we traveled a lot before, but I'm from Ottawa originally, like Ottawa, Ontario, and all of my friends are in Ottawa. I never really made friends in my hometown here that I've been for like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And my husband and we met here, and then we lived in Ottawa for a while, and then we came back here, and we would travel to Ottawa 4 or 5 times a year to see our friends and go to their cottage, and we would have get-togethers in different parts of Ontario and sometimes in Quebec. And that has been the only change for me, is that it's now been 2 years and we haven't gone to anyone's cottage, we haven't gone and seen anybody. It's just been us in this house.
Yeah.
So really our lives didn't change much.
But in itself, though, that is quite a big change in a way, because you had all of these contacts and this network that you had that is now completely remote, whereas before it was partially remote.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that at the beginning of the pandemic, we all kind of had get-togethers online. We'd have like little parties online, and we did that maybe the first month or 2, and then things just went back to the way it always was. Like they still see each other because they're in Ottawa, and though they may have been separated for a short amount of time, they're back together now doing things, and we just haven't brought ourselves to travel out that way yet. So yeah.
And when you say you haven't brought yourselves to travel out that way, is there anything in particular that's hindering that, or is it government policies?
No, it's not government policies. We could travel now if we wanted to. Half it's the baby, because now we have a 4-month-old baby, and we're just hesitant to take the 8-hour car ride. When it was just us 2 traveling, we could get there in like 5 or 6 hours. Cool. But with a baby, we're going to need a lot more time, because it's not good to have them in the car seat that long. So we've got to stop more. Plus he can be cranky. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons that stops us. And the other is still fear. And I guess actually that's probably really been the biggest change for me, is that I was never afraid of things before. I wasn't afraid of germs. I didn't think people were going to get me sick. I wasn't afraid of touching people. And now I don't want people around me. I don't want to touch people. And even my closest of friends, I'm afraid to go and visit them, because we're very huggy, touchy people. And I don't know if I can go back to that. Like, I want to, but I'm also very fearful of it because, I mean, I have 2 autoimmune diseases. I have like lupus and I have MS, and I've been on and off steroids for a couple of months now, which just brings my immune system way down.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid of getting something, and then if I caught something, that it would make one of my diseases worse. So
Sure.
fear is stopping me from traveling.
But it's a perfectly warranted fear. I mean, in the UK, we've only recently found out about, well, the government have only recently released our comorbidity statistics, and that when you get comorbidities, it can increase your risk from COVID. Like, you know, not in terms of fatality, but in terms of just long-term problems and, you know, exacerbating previous conditions. So yeah, I mean, it is definitely a fear to have, but it's, from my perspective anyway, it seems warranted. Like, so I guess that you've had a lot of experience with health and social care services maybe, and trying to access them. Has that been a problem in the pandemic?
Yes and no. I do have, I'm lucky enough that I have some really great doctors. I know that some other people don't, but I've also fought very hard for the healthcare team that I have. So accessing them has been hard in the sense that a lot of some of them I don't see anymore. Some of them it's all like virtual or on the phone, unless I need to be hands-on for some reason. Like if I was having an MS attack, then they would want to see me in person. But if I'm stable, which I have been, then they're happy to do it on the phone. Okay. So we've been doing a lot that way. In the beginning, my family doctor was pretty much strictly on the phone, but then after a couple of months, started opening up the office hours again. And then the choice was yours. You could come in or you could do it on the phone. So it all just depended what the problem was. So for like my main doctors, it remained pretty easy. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I used to get these treatments for, I have nerve damage to my eye from an MS attack a couple of years ago. And we've been trying to treat that, because it causes a lot of terrible pain. And we've been trying to find a way to combat that pain other than just drugs. So I've been seeing every specialist, every doctor, trying every treatment. And I had just started trying these injections in Toronto. And just when I was going to have like my second treatment, that's when the pandemic started, and it wasn't considered an essential service. So it was shut down. So I couldn't go and get that done. And then by the time they opened up again, my husband and I had decided, you know, what better time to have a family? and we were trying to get pregnant. So then I couldn't continue on with the treatments because they weren't safe for pregnancy. So.
Okay. Oh, wow. So it's kind of one thing after the other there.
Yeah.
But with the pandemic as like a catalyst, basically.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. And then so just so that, like, obviously I'm not going to go into exactly where you live or anything, but in general, like you're under the Canadian health system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Go. It's just obviously because, some things will be a bit different, I guess, depending on where we all are with people viewing it.
Well, province to province. Like, I don't know what the rest of Canada is like, but Ontario, I'm in Ontario, and we have the OHIP, Ontario. I don't even know what it stands for, but we have OHIP. And most of everything is covered under OHIP, and what isn't covered under OHIP, my husband's benefits tend to cover pretty well. So, or we pay out of pocket, and at least so far, nothing that I've had to access has been overly expensive.
Okay. Oh, so you've actually had to pay for some of that as well? Because I know you've got some kind of pseudo universal healthcare, but there's something else involved.
Yeah. Most of the healthcare is universal. Like you can go to a hospital and have pretty much anything done. But like the treatments I was trying to have for my eye pain, some of it was covered by OHIP and some of it wasn't. So like I think all the medical part, like going there, seeing the doctors, that was all covered, but certain injectables I had to pay for, and they were like $50. So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. The only experience I've had with Ontario healthcare was I visited Toronto years ago, and my friend there, she cut a hand open, cutting some steak or something, and then we had to go to the A&E, and that was it. And so that's the only experience I have with Ontario. Yeah, I guess obviously with the fear behind because of the autoimmune conditions, what level of understanding did you have before the pandemic in general about viruses and the nature of pandemics?
You know, I guess it really, you mean like what you see in the movies. I think I always related it to, in a way, The Stand, because that was always my favorite, favorite like pandemic movie. And I really, that's all I would think of was, or like, are we going that way? You know,
Yeah.
how many people are going to die from this?
Yeah.
But in my head, I mean, when they say virus, I know viruses have a course that they run and then they're like gone. So I figured at some point this is going to run its course and then it's going to be gone. I guess the very long course.
Yeah.
Very long course.
Yeah, I mean, I love The Stand. I've read the book. I've watched both versions on TV. It's amazing. Yeah. It's kind of, to me, it's the worst case scenario of how you could imagine. That and 12 Monkeys are like, you know, this is what could happen. And I think that in terms of the lessons that we should be learning from this pandemic, I'm not sure that we've learned them.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, this is the warning shot.
Yeah. I feel like for some people, it really brought out the best of some people, but it really brought out the worst in other people. And I think that's been a real struggle to find like where you fit in that line. Like,
Yeah.
you're trying to be good, but at the same time, you might have these bad tendencies, and you're either really far one way or you're really far the other way. And just 1 second.
No worries. Hello. Oh, he's so cute. Hello. He's mesmerized by the screen.
Yeah, he doesn't have very much screen time. Actually, he has no screen time at all. So he doesn't see computers very often yet because he's just too
little. And he's 4 months.
Yeah, just over 4 months.
Oh man, he's so cute. Hello. It's like, Mum, the light box is talking to me.
Yeah, like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah. It looks like a human, but I'm not sure what it is.
It's all confusing, isn't it?
Oh, so cool.
But yeah, I think people forgot how to agree to disagree.
Yes.
I think people were capable of that before, but now all of a sudden you are either this or you are that. And if you are that and I am this, we can't be friends.
Yeah.
And I know with our close group of friends, like from here in Ottawa, there were a couple people who fell on the opposite side of us, and they really were against the whole pandemic and COVID. They didn't think it was real, and they got on board that train and went downhill. And we all tried to, first we tried to ignore it and just be like, you know, oh, it's just this person. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. They're going through a hard time. Let's not try to be too mean or judgmental. And then it got to the point where these people were insulting you if you thought the pandemic was real, and putting you down and getting really nasty. And that became really hard. And for me, especially because I felt if I got COVID, then it wasn't so much that I was afraid of getting sick. It was if I got sick, that could affect my MS. And that's permanent damage. I could be paralyzed forever. I could lose so many bodily functions or mental functions. And that's what scared me. And then to have people that I've known for like 20 plus years call me an idiot for thinking that this was a real thing was really hard. And I unfortunately don't have a very good filter and said some things that maybe I should not have said in hindsight. So friendships are over, and it's been really hard to come to terms with that sometimes, because I mean, we were friends for 20 plus years, and all of our Facebook memories are, you know, years and years and years of all these good times together.
Yeah.
And we can never go back to that, you know, partly because of some things that I said, but also because they've just gone too far. And one by one, all of the friends started dropping out and stopping being, you know, a part of that circle, because it's a train wreck you just can't watch anymore, you know?
Yeah. It's something I have seen happen in time and time again between people, that the tribalism that's, my personal opinion is that the tribalism's been encouraged by certain groups within our society, like the mainstream media or the government. Like, that's just my personal opinion. I think that they might have been able to manage things a bit better, and just to try and create a bit more unity between people, so that this didn't happen. And like you're saying, it while there are aspects to it that brought out the best in us, it did bring out a lot of the worst in us at the same time. So what is it? I mean, if you don't mind going into it, we don't have to go into it if you don't want to. But what do you think it is that kind of pushed them down that path?
Well, for one of them, they had a pretty traumatic life event right before this whole thing started. And I think that put them in a really bad place. So I think that's partly what helped lead them down that path. But also they came from a country where losing your freedoms was a real thing. They weren't born and raised in Canada. They were from, I don't want to say go to a third world country, but they were just more from somewhere where you didn't have rights and the government could take whatever they wanted at any time from you. So in their head, I think they were seeing that country come into our country, and they couldn't make a separation. And it didn't help that our government was like, their big thing was 2 weeks to flatten the curve and everything will be fine. And
2 years later,
I'm not a scientist, I'm not a mathematician. Those are two subjects I'm not good at all. But when they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I was like, I don't see how that's possible. Like, it didn't make sense to me, because you were closing some things but not other things, and some things you weren't allowed to do, but you were allowed to do other things, which puts you into contact with a lot of people. So it didn't make sense. And then, of course, when 2 weeks passes and they're like, another 2 weeks, well, people just started not trusting them and saying, well, you're lying, this isn't real, so I don't believe it. And my thought was that, well, here's a new thing that we don't understand, and we're trying to do the best that we can. People want answers right now, and it doesn't matter that the answers are going to be ever changing and that we're going to be learning from this day after day. I want an answer that's solid and concrete right now, and I'm holding on to it. And some people just weren't able to bend. You know, they weren't able to see that science changes, and what we learn about the disease changes, and we're just trying to do the best we can. So I think all of those things help lead them that way, and there was no going back for them. Like, they couldn't take a step back and look at the bigger picture. It was just all, you lied to me, you don't know what you're talking about, this isn't real.
Yeah. And then when people get so emotive like that, it's very hard to separate their personal life from their political life or their other aspects of their life and from their health.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a nuanced thing that it's very hard, like particularly if you don't know much about the issue at hand. I mean, I don't know much about, say, economics or foreign policy, so it's very hard for me personally with that aspect of it to separate those things from my emotions if I don't understand them. Whereas epidemiology and psychology and that I know something about, so it's very easy for me to compartmentalize. And I think that a lot of the people that are disseminating information to us forget that they can do that because they have the knowledge base, but most people don't. You know, that's how I try and think about it. I think if I was, an economist watching this, how would I feel? But yeah, so I guess moving away from that now, going to lockdowns, and we've spoken a bit about 2 weeks to flatten the curve, which turned into 90-odd days. And yeah, how did that affect you in your life? Because I know you've already said that various aspects of the lockdowns things didn't really affect you so much, but I mean, it's fine to have good thoughts about it as well, and if you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it in some ways. Like some things I didn't enjoy, obviously, but my husband, it's not that he's a workaholic, but he really likes to work, and he's very good at what he does. And his days were usually 8, 12, 16-hour days, and all of a sudden now he was at home most of the time because he works in IT, and well, one of his jobs. All of his jobs are kind of in IT, but he could do almost everything from home. So all of a sudden he was at home all day instead of being at, in an office all day. And for me, that was great. I really enjoyed it because he was here, and I wasn't used to having him here all the time because I'm here all the time. And usually it was just me and the dog. And now it was the three of us, before this guy came.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed that because I liked having him here. I liked that all of a sudden now I could make him lunch and go and see him, see how he's doing at work, bother him throughout the day. And I think he enjoyed that too. Like he enjoyed that he had lunches now brought to him, and he didn't have to come upstairs to get coffee because I just bring it down to him.
Yeah.
So I mean, from that aspect, I really quite enjoyed it. And before the whole pandemic started, when they were just, I think it was early February, mid-February, when they were just starting to kind of talk about this sickness that was happening, my husband one day just came to me and said, listen, you need to go to the grocery store and shop for 2 months. That's going to be a lot of money. And he's like, I don't care. Go grocery shop for 2 months because this is going to happen. It's going to be big and we're not going anywhere. And I kind of laughed. He's pretty good at predicting things, so I half believed him, but at the same time, I'm like, is that really going to happen? Yeah. So I did. I stocked up on everything. And then when the pandemic actually hit and everyone was scrambling around to stock up on toilet paper, apparently that was what everybody needed. I didn't need toilet paper because I always have lots. But when everyone was scrambling around, we just kind of sat back because I had already prepped. I had our freezer was so full of food. We didn't shop for 2 months. Wow. And I always did online shopping anyways. I rarely ever went to the grocery store. So that was great. So for 2 months, we just lived inside the house. And
cool.
And it was pretty great. And luckily we like each other enough that we didn't get sick of each other, and it wasn't a burden at all. So I mean, I liked I liked it. I enjoyed it. And from like a business perspective, I kind of feel bad saying this because I know so many people struggled with work and had difficulties. But for my husband, he really prospered during the pandemic because everything now is gone remote, and that's what he does. So everybody needed, some kind of help remotely, and there was no shortage of work for him at all. And one of his other jobs, he had just started at the time, they were building this massive co-working space, and it just couldn't have worked out better because as businesses are closing down and everyone's asked to work from home, this co-working space is opening up, and you can come and rent an office to work from.
Oh, cool.
So you don't have to work at home. So so we were in a unique position, I guess, where our lives were barely affected. I mean, like obviously there were lots of things that did affect us, but I mean,
I guess it's like the peripherals of your life were affected, but your actual day-to-day living, you're okay with that. And I don't think there's any shame in appreciating that, because obviously we all suffered difficulties in the pandemic, and it has all affected all of us. And I think that we need to find the good points as well, of where there was joy and whether we were able to prosper in different aspects of the pandemic. And yeah, I just think it's good just to hear that somebody was actually doing well in the pandemic, like in the lockdown period. I mean, the thing you're saying about your husband, that's what my partner said as well. She said, like, I'm going out to the shop. She's like, again, mid-February, and she went out and did loads of shopping. Her spidey sense was tingling, and she was like, I think I'm going to have to prepare. I was like, all right, you do you. And then she was right and I was wrong.
Yeah, our friends actually all kind of laughed at us because I messaged them and I was like, Matt is saying this stuff and I just want to share it with you guys because this is what we're doing. And one of our friends was traveling a lot for work at the time. And I had said, you should probably consider coming home. Like, I know you like traveling for work, but things are going to start shutting down and it might be hard for you to get back. So you really should consider it. And they're like, nah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. And then, sure enough, second week of March, they're like, I'm being sent home from work because everything's shutting down. No more traveling for work. And we were like, yeah, we told you this.
Yeah, and everyone's stuck on cruise ships in Japan. No one can get home.
That was brutal. I couldn't imagine being stuck on a cruise ship.
No. Oh my God, it must be a nightmare anyway. It's not my idea of a holiday. I know it is for some people, but I couldn't imagine that in that little room for like weeks.
Yeah, I've been on the cruise ship twice. Once for work, and then once with my husband. We went a couple of years ago, and my whole thing was I could not be stuck in a little room. Like the only way I can get on a cruise ship is if we spend the extra money and I have a balcony, because I'm not normally claustrophobic, but if I know I can't get out of somewhere, then I am.
Exactly.
And so we did. We saved up and we spent the extra money and we had a balcony and it made it worth it. But, cruise ships are great in all for some things, but it's not the extreme experience. I'd much rather to like travel by car or drive around the mountains or something.
Yeah, I think it's might be a cultural difference as well, because I'm imagining Brits abroad and we're not a good group of people abroad. And I just imagine a ship full of 1,000 British people. Oh my God. Yeah, so I guess, talking about mental health, if you had like positive aspects in the lockdowns, but was there anything else throughout the pandemic that affected your mental health at all?
Yes and no. I think at the beginning, one thing that was like positive and negative was, you know, my husband and I, we've been together for over 20 years.
Oh, cool.
And we love our life, and we've done lots of things, and we always talked about, you know, having a kid, but it was never the right time. When is ever the right time? There's never a right time. But it was never the right time for us. And especially with my health always going up and down, it was like, can we even consider that? And then all of a sudden the pandemic hits, and we're like, what the hell are we doing with our lives? You know, we're sitting in this house, and, you know, we love each other, we enjoy each other, but what are we doing? And we decided, like, what the heck? You know, we're getting old. This is probably our last chance to try to have a baby. So let's just do it. And I think it was like our mental health, it wasn't that it was failing us, but we just started really questioning life, you know, with everything happening with the pandemic, and watching people struggle and succeed. We figured we could do something else. we need to do something else. And so, you know, making this decision was probably our big mental health change. Like we need to do this for ourselves. So there was that. But I don't think either of us really struggled in a bad way, because we're both kind of introverts. He's an introvert extrovert. Like he's happy being around people. He's like a social butterfly. He's happy with people. He has lots of friends. I'm happy around people, but I'm happier alone.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And I mean, I like people, but I also don't like people. And so it's like the hardest thing for me was just not being able to see the people I did want to see, like my friends in Ottawa, or even my dad. My dad lives like a 7-minute walk from my house, and both of us have, you know, questionable health. So we don't see each other as often as we used to. And I know that's been really hard for his mental health. Like I know that really hurts him. And that was probably my biggest struggle, I guess, would be like not seeing my dad as often as I used to, but we talk every day. So there's that.
How often did you see him before the pandemic?
Oh, all the time. Because I used to, like, he's a 7-minute walk away. I would walk over to his house, he would walk over to mine. And then I come from a large family, and like I have a brother and a sister. They have kids, and my brother's kid has a kid, his kids. So we've always had like big family dinners, and we don't do that anymore. And that's been maybe another like sad part of the mental health. Is like I miss those family dinners, and like our house isn't very big, but it was always fun trying to cram 15 people in here.
Yeah, for sure.
Dinner, with kids running around and dogs, and you know, me trying to cook dinner for everybody. that I think we miss a lot, and my husband too, because he's got a very small family, and they were always very, very close. So that's been hard for him. I think like he misses the family dinners, and we're very much looking forward to family dinners again, or just dinners with people in general, you know?
Yeah. And I guess at what point would you feel ready to go out and start doing those things again?
In some ways, I'm kind of ready now, like on a smaller scale. Okay. I don't know, like with my husband's family, I'm probably more ready to have dinners with them, because they're only like 8 or 9 people. There's not very many people there, so it's not so bad. But with my family, there's lots of people and lots of kids, and kids have lots of germs. And now I'm afraid of germs. So,
Yeah.
so I think it would be just smaller get-togethers, you know, like a dinner maybe with my dad, and a dinner with my sister and her kids, and then a dinner with my niece and her kids. Like that's where I think we'll start off, is just small dinners.
Yeah, dip your toe in and just get comfortable with going out and doing things again. And yeah, because in terms of like the other measures that were put in place, like with the mask wearing and stuff, and the vaccines and everything, is there anything about that that helped you feel a bit safer and better, or was it not effective in that sense?
I really liked wearing the mask. I mean, I don't like wearing a mask.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a hard time regulating my body temperature. So having a mask on my face, I overheat, and it's really hard to regulate body temperature when you have a mask on your face.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine having to work with a mask on, because like I'm sweating profusely right now.
Yeah.
Imagine talking to somebody for more than 5 minutes with a mask on.
For sure.
But I do somewhat feel safer with a mask, even though when I read the science behind masks, it's not like they protect you from everything. It's more like they're protecting you from spreading your germs onto other people.
Yeah.
Depending on what type of mask you're wearing. And I would wear, like 3 or 4 masks. I'd have a cloth mask with some, I can't remember what the material is, but the material that you put inside of it to help make it safer.
Yeah.
And then a surgical mask on top of that. And I would, kind of feel safe. And now I'm wearing the KN95 mask. Maybe I feel safe, and I definitely have this aversion to people who aren't wearing masks. Like, I'm not trying to judge people for, what they're doing or not doing. But whenever I go out in public, I'm like, that person's not wearing a mask. Why aren't they wearing a mask?
Yeah.
Like, are they sick?
Yeah.
Can they not wear a mask? Maybe we just shouldn't go near them. And I hate that. Like,
Yeah,
I hate these thoughts that the pandemic has like started to spread inside my head. Like, these didn't exist before.
Exactly. Yeah, because it gets us to think. Sorry?
I have enough paranoia. I didn't need a new one.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is like it gets you thinking in a way that you weren't before, and it gets you thinking things about people that I guess you're not really sort of prepared for,
It's weird. Like, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for how this would make me change the way I think.
Yeah.
That's been hard.
He's quite chatty today, isn't he?
Yeah.
He wants to be involved in the video.
Chatty and hungry. Always something with this guy.
Yeah, so what, I know I've spoken a bit about what your perception was of viruses and things when the pandemic started, and we've kind of covered a bit about the early days of the pandemic before we went into lockdown. But what was your perception of it? What sort of concerns or worries did you have when it first started and we didn't know anything yet?
I thought everyone was going to die. I thought if we went out there, we were going to get sick and die, or get sick and worse, not die, but have, some terrible side effect, or, like have a disease progression for me.
For sure.
And I was always terrified whenever my husband would say, like, I actually have to go into the office today to get a couple of things. And I'd have like the 50 questions, who's going to be there? Like, wear your mask. Here's 10 bottles of sanitizer. Make sure you use them. Change your clothes when you come back into the house, so you're not bringing germs back in. And I think there was a small amount of time that I thought the worst. Like, I thought, like, outbreak, The Stand, 20 Monkeys, 12 monkeys. I thought something, you know, big bad was going to happen. And then as we progressed, it started just feeling like, okay, like this is kind of like a flu, but a little bit worse than a flu. Like it spreads a little bit faster, it's a little bit more contagious. And, you know, if you already have a compromised immune system, the chances of you getting really, really sick is greater than before. Yeah. So, you know, my perception changed. And now it still worries me. There are still lots of things that, you know, I do fear from it. But at the same time, I'm ready to just deal with it. Like, I'm ready to just, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. If you want to be vaccinated, be vaccinated. If you don't. Like, life goes on.
Yeah.
At some point, things just have to continue. And I want to be over it.
Yeah, for sure.
I want it to be done, but I also want it to be done safely.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
And do you think that we're doing that safely? Just your general opinion on that. Do you think we're coming out of it safely?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to think so. I think that in some ways, like, we've done all we can. I think that some things could be done better. I think some things were done pretty poorly, but it's the first time we've ever really in our lifetime dealt with something like this. So I think we did the best that we could, you know.
Yeah, I guess given the system that we've got and our preparation, and even though we had people trying to work to improve the pandemic response ready, but given the systems that we had in place at the time, then yeah, I think you're right in that aspect. That could it have gone any better? I'm not sure it could have done. It happened the way it did, and now we have to live with that, you know. Yeah, so is there anything that you took for granted before the pandemic that you don't take for granted now?
You know, I don't really, well, in a way, seeing family, you know, because before you just like, well, you mean you saw them or you didn't, but it was almost like they're always going to be there. So I'll just see them next time. And then there was a course of time during the pandemic where it was like, if one of our family members gets sick and dies, we'll have not seen them because of this. And before, when I used to work, I for years I was a personal support worker for people with disabilities. Okay. And then after that, I scheduled personal support workers for people with disabilities. So either way, I would have been an essential service if I had been working. But I had a lot of friendships that I kept within that community. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I watched a lot of people die because I didn't watch them die. Like I read in the newspaper, a lot of people that I used to work directly with, people who I was friends with, passed away because of complications from COVID. And I mean, that made it really real. But then thinking, well, this could be a family member that I took for granted, and those friendships. Like there was one gentleman in particular that my husband and I both loved very much, and we'd known him for years and worked with him for years. And before the pandemic, we kept on saying, we got to get out and see this guy. Like, we haven't seen him in so long. We got to get out and see him. We got to get out and see him. And we talked to him like, you know, we're going to come and see you soon. We just got to, you know, get these things together. Or he'd be like, well, my health isn't the greatest right now, so I'll let you know when I'm ready. And then he died.
Oh, no.
And And we're like, oh, like we just should have done it.
Yeah.
Like we should have just gone to see him. And I'd like to think that that's what we're going to take out of this, is that we are just going to go and see people. We're going to stop waiting for that right time, like the right time to have a baby, where there's no more right time. The right time is now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think we're going to stop looking for the right time and just do it.
Well, that's a good lesson to have. And you've got a little life out of it as well, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess that kind of almost makes my last question redundant, because I think you've already just answered it. Is what thoughts of or advice would you share with your past self from 2 years ago?
Yeah, stop waiting for the right time.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's good advice for anybody, and that's quite a good place to end the interview, actually, because it's a really good message for people to have in this day and age. You know, we often do wait for the right time to do things and spend a lot of time crapping about, and yeah, do it when you want to do it, in a way, not in a carpe diem silly way, but I mean in like you know, in your case, you've got a husband that you love and he loves you, and you've got a secure family. So, you know, take that opportunity while you've got it. But yeah. But yeah, so is there anything else you want to add to the interview, or are you okay?
No, I don't think so. I think that's everything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for taking part, and thanks so much for the chat today. It's been really good. Yeah, thanks for taking the chance to sort of share your story with me. I don't know, it just means a lot to me that already, like, I've only just started doing this and people are already contacting me wanting to take part. And it takes a lot for people to offer themselves up like this, to take part in something that's so new. Like, I'm not a public figure. Nobody knows who the fuck I am. So, and I just really appreciate people taking their time to talk to me about this. So, well, thank you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, and good luck with this. I hope you get lots of participants.
Yeah, thank you. And you've been wonderful today, honestly. You had nothing to worry about, really. Anyway, say goodbye to your little man. For me.
Will, you take care.
Yeah, see you later.
Okay, bye-bye.